Welcome to St John's for our weekly update. Today is the 26th of August. It's the 20th anniversary of the Tampa crisis. You may remember that 20 years ago today, a number of asylum seekers were picked up from a boat that was sinking, a boat that the Australian authorities had known was sinking for nearly 2 days. And had done nothing to help rescue those who were in peril. And eventually the Australian authorities sent out a rescue alert, and the Tampa rescued those people. And then over the next few days, Australian authorities did everything in their power, including politicising our armed forces, to stop the people of the Tampa being delivered to Australia. And out of that shameful incident came the Pacific solution. And solution's an interesting word when we're talking about dealing with people. The Pacific solution and our use of Nauru as a concentration camp. It was the Tampa crisis that really sensitised me to the plight of refugees, and there's a number of refugee organisations have done some deep reflective analysis to help us remind ourselves of how Australia has become captive to a paralysing narrative about refugees and asylum seekers that continues to our shame today. Listen to the rhetoric that some of our politicians are applying to people who wish to flee the oppression of the Taliban. And as we think of the plight of refugees, we can segue into the change of focus that we see happening in our Sunday Gospels this coming weekend. The past 6 weeks we have been focusing on the bread of life discourse that is to be found in the Gospel according to John. This Sunday we return to the Gospel according to Mark, which is the Gospel of focus for this year B in our 3-year cycle. And as we return to the Gospel according to Mark, we hear Jesus talking to the disciples about purity and goodness. And we have that wonderful story where Jesus reminds them that purity is not to be found in ritualistic behaviours surrounding eating, and also from avoiding certain foods, but true purity of heart, to be a follower of the way, is to confront the fact that it's our hearts that need to be transformed by the presence of Christ. And he reminds them that it's from the heart that evil actions come, and that it's actually what comes out of our mouth that matters far more than what goes into it. And I think that gospel speaks to that slim minority in Australia who continue to control our discourse on asylum seekers and refugees, and have paralysed both of our political parties for over 2 decades. This weekend, the Sunday of this weekend is the 5th Sunday of the month. On the 5th Sunday of the month we have a beautiful focus on music in our liturgy. The morning liturgy at 9:30 we have Matins and Eucharist. Wonderful opportunity to experience music that is not often experienced these days, because matins or sung morning prayer is such a rare experience in the Australian Church. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to explore part of the liturgical music that is not often celebrated in Australia. And then at Evensong on Sunday, the chamber choir will be joining us to sing Evensong. So wonderful focus on music this weekend. As the week unfolds, the next of our free morning concerts will happen on Thursday, and that will be the Conservatorium brass department offering a concert for us. This week we also have 2 opportunities to engage with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. The first opportunity is on Sunday, where there's a reconciliation afternoon tea in the parish of Aspley, Albany Creek. It was an afternoon tea that had to be postponed a little earlier. And on Wednesday we have Wasting Time with God, and we're joined by Auntie Alex Gator, who was the first Aboriginal woman ordained in Australia. So please come and have a great conversation with Auntie Alex as she talks to us about her life experience and her priesthood. Wednesday is also the beginning of the season of creation, that liturgical season that has been emerging in the life of the Church over the last 2 or 3 decades, and to celebrate the commencement of that season, there is an ecumenical event at St Stephen's Cathedral, and Archbishop Mark will be the preacher. He was very much influenced by a book called The Blue Sapphire of the Mind, which I'm reading at the moment. And The Blue Sapphire of the Mind shows us how our contemplative Christian tradition enables us to develop a better relationship with the environment. And so to this week's birthdays, we say happy birthday to Bruce Morn, who had a birthday on Tuesday, and a few people who've got birthdays coming up later in the week. Ian McCulloch, who's a wonderful coordinator of our bell ringing team, John Cameron and Tina Pentland. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Fortunately, we are still not in lockdown in Queensland. COVID sits just across the border, something like a invasive threat, I have to say. Let us use the freedom we have to join together in worship and also to meet together via Zoom as we need. Be aware that the Cathedral community does have options that enable you to connect if you're not able to be physically present. Thank you for the continued contribution you make to the life of the Cathedral, particularly the way that members of the community are staying in touch with one another and nurturing one another through these difficult and complex days. The Lord be with you.